Understated presents LA Underground with Roukin.
Girl, I'll house you.
Say what?
LA Underground.
Now give me something to dance to.
Understated LA.
This is only the beginning.
Clever the way everything blends together.
And my sound's laid down by the underground.
LA Underground avec Roukin. You're listening to the Understated Recordings podcast, LA Underground.
Hello and welcome to Understated Presents LA Underground with me, Roukin. This is the 20th episode of the show and our final show of the year. And what a great year it's been for dance music and for the label and the LA Underground itself. Coming up in this show is an interview with one of the great producers in our scene right now. It's Bot. He's an LA resident, obviously via Italy. And we sat down and had a great chat about his journey and where he's at currently with his productions and where he's heading. And he also delivered an absolute corker of a guest mix, which I know you're going to love. So hang around for that too. As usual, at the beginning of the episode, we showcase some tracks from the label, usually tracks that aren't released yet. But on this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different and showcase 3 tracks that were released during 2019 that had a particularly special place in our heart at Understated. So kicking off the show this week, it's a track that saw the Understated name go on the new white label imprint from Astralworks. It's a melodic, electro-tinged techno track from Montreal-based LUNR. And this track led to an EP from LUNR and brought on a whole new slew of remixers from Sis Deems, Kamaru, Ash and Somi, and also one from one of our originals, Anakim. So this is the 28mm remix of LUNR's Oblivion. Coming up next is a track that everybody was collectively excited about at the label. It's just the perfect combination of moody, deep house music and funky breaks. This track's garnered massive support from the likes of J Flip, Party Boy 69, just to name a few. So keep an eye out for this artist. It's Garneau, and this track is Pothos. And finally, our third track that we're showcasing this week from 2019's releases is a personal favorite of mine and a track that I've been hammering from the day I received it. And this producer is a good friend and collaborator of our interview guest, Bot, coming up next. This is proper, straight down the middle house music. This is Manolo and his track, Ronda. now we move on to the interview part of the show. And on this episode, I sat down with the incomparable Bot. Enjoy. So I'm really excited to welcome to the LA Underground studio today a man that needs very little introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. It's Bot. And for those of you who are less familiar with him, he hails from Milan in Italy and really came to everybody's attention with the act Crookers. They had a whole stream of hits, and then now Bot is in a new phase of his career under his current alias and has really released on a who's who of the house music industry. Right now he's on Box of Cats, but he's released on Dirty Bird, Realm, Fool's Gold, Relief, Insomniac, you name it. He also has released on his own label, Main Course, and he is prolific and relentless. And if you haven't seen him DJ, I have a couple of times. He's a beast. So get out there and see him. And welcome to the studio, Bot.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure being here. And flattering introduction, I gotta say. Very nice.
Well deserved. And one of the things that I'm really interested to talk to you about, our show is about the LA Underground specifically.
Yeah.
And Understated, for which this is the official podcast of, is really a linchpin for many crews in LA and emerging artists from different crews releasing on the label. Manolo, who you obviously have very close relationship with and have a release out right now. My favorite from that release actually is My Face, which I've been playing whenever I can. It's an absolute, it's a beauty of a track.
And we just started a new one yesterday, by the way.
Exciting. Yeah, what's that going to be called? Do you know yet?
No, we were just going to be, I think we're on the same page in the sense that we want to do more of a body of work and then decide what to do. So, let's just do 10 tracks, figure out if we can have a few releases and if we can make it an actual project, both of us. Yeah, I'm trying to either not do many collaborations at this time or something like that has more of, now it sounds stupid, that has more of a story in a way, that has more like of a, not random collaboration with whoever comes through my studio, which is kind of what I've been doing a lot in the past, but more with Manolo. We've been knowing each other for years, and then at some point it just clicked. We were converging to the same kind of sounds, and we already released 3 EPs this year together, which I just realized, like, wait a minute, really? It's crazy. So yeah, working more with him, and respect to you guys, because you were the first ones who you released this first EP.
And it's, I think, his second one too.
Oh, cool.
But he's a lovely man and a really talented producer. I guess it's really nice, isn't it, when you find your groove with somebody in the studio like that, and you can just keep creating and see what comes out of it.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be cheesy, and it's not entirely necessary if you have a creative collaboration, but it really helps if you're also friends. Because I think we were friends before trying to collaborate, which sometimes, even in my experience, it's kind of rare, because I start to collaborate usually with artists, and then eventually we become friends. So, but the thing with Manolo was a bit, I feel more natural in a way, because we were friends, maybe doing a little different kind of sounds. And then when we converge to the same sounds without any pressure, any like, let's do this so we can get released. It's just like, oh, he plays me something like, oh, maybe I have some ideas for that. Let's try to make it work, because you are not happy with where it is and I have some ideas for it. That's how it started. And I think, in my many collaborations, this was one of the best way to go about collaborating. It wasn't like decided before, okay, we should collaborate because you have the name, you maybe we can release something on this label. Let's do something on this style. It just happens the way organically, and I love this word now. And without forcing it, which is kind of when good stuff happens, I feel.
And I think the other positive thing about working with friends as well is that there's a trust, isn't there? So when you're criticizing the track that you're making, it's never taken personally. It's always about that thing you're creating because you have an understanding, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Actually, that's also one of the real upsides of having a collaboration that is born under these circumstances is that that the person, if he's criticizing something that you're doing or not feeling a particular part, it's because they think that the track needs something else, or it's just not fitting the track. They're not thinking about, but if we want to get to this label, if you want to entice this audience, because I've had that, and I had to actually realize that people were doing that in their brains, and that's really not good for the studio. If I realize someone is thinking in that way, I try to cut it short, because it's there's no point. I try to make the best music we can make together. And also, I don't like to be married to it in a way. If the song, we don't really love it, let's just let it go. And with Manny, that's a perfect collaboration also in that, if we can let go of a track. Well, sometimes when you collaborate with people and the track maybe is really not coming, but they really push to finish it, and then you end up with something nobody likes.
Yeah. I think having your own quality control is so important, isn't it? And knowing where you've hit a creative dead end and you need to go on a new path. And I think that's really important. I'm really interested. We know your story, at least in terms of your musical journey. But what I'm really interested to talk to you about today is your experience of the underground scene where you've been. I mean, both of us come from Europe, where it's always been such a healthy subcultural scene, the house music scene, and thriving for all the way through the 90s and early 2000s. And you've been in LA for 5-6 years now?
5
years?
I realized today, because I read a tweet about a friend of mine. He's like, "Oh, moved to America 4 years ago." I was like, "Wow, I moved a year before you, so it's 5 already." Yeah, it's 5 actually. It's 2014 April. So,
and how do you feel?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is amazing how time flies, isn't it?
Here, yeah, because apart today, I love it. But it's kind of Groundhog Day the whole year. It looks like the same day every day.
We're right in the middle of a rainy patch, for those of you who are listening.
Oh, yeah.
That's what Bot's referring to.
Luckily.
But how do you feel the LA underground is unique versus the other underground scenes that you've experienced as an artist? And how is it affecting your creative process?
I think, the LA underground, if I can go back to the beginning of your questions, where I think we might have a similar background growing up. Yes, in Europe we grew up, and I don't need to say it people will think maybe I'm douchey or something, but we kind of grew up with a real underground scene that was very defined. It was not you go to a club that can do underground and not underground. It was some places just underground, and they go on for 2 days, and for me it was just house music, and I was young, and luckily they weren't very strict, so at 16 maybe I could get in the club, and I still have hundreds of cassette tapes of everyone from 92, not 89 actually, because I was collecting them, but where I went was 95, 96, and it was all these classic house people, like Frankie Knuckles was a resident Echoes in Rimini in 92. I have all these cassette tapes.
Incredible.
And so we were spoiled, I think, because I grew up on Frankie Knuckles, Tony Humphries, all the Louis Vega, all the Masterwork thing, and all those legends. And so I think coming from that, I have a bit of a different perspective that here maybe you can see in people who, I don't know if you experience, but if you go to places like Chicago, Detroit, you can experience that the people there have more of a culture like that. If anything, I find that now, given my age, unfortunately, there's people who grew up there whose parents were listening to that music. And I think coming back to LA, that in LA does not exist. There's no tradition of electronic music here. There's a rave culture tradition, but that's not necessarily like a bad thing in the way that then you can shape it from scratch, and you don't have to like follow what was before. But in that sense, I think the underground here is quite. The only thing I would describe as underground is the warehouse parties that that give you the address, maybe the day off. Everything else does not really look very underground to me at all, but that's probably the state everywhere. And not really complaining, but I think there's still space in LA for the underground. There's this like weird underground, where it's people feel like, okay, it's not what everybody listens to on the radio, but real underground places, they don't really exist that much here. I feel like it's some parties every now and then I go and I'm like, okay, oh, this is it, but there's not a stable scene for that. I think in house music, techno, I believe it's more popping.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think that's to do with purely the time that this scene has been around here, or do you think it's to do with where we are, or something else?
I think, and I was specifically talking about house, I think it's because, I've been coming here since first years was probably 2008, 2009. Like, a dance scene did not really exist. The term EDM did not even exist. It was a cool kids thing, and it was the first Steve Aoki, Scene in Space, that kind of scene, but it didn't really exist. So I'm not complaining, because it's remarkable actually that it grew so fast, because it went from zero to something.
Yeah, it's really thriving right now for sure.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, it's exciting times where there's even like more space to do more underground stuff that's credible, and there's an audience for it. They're ready. And my point was not really like a criticism of the state. It's like, I don't think there is yet, but there is space for real underground to thrive. And I don't understand when people complain about the not so underground stuff that's going on, because it's like, well, you know what? There's space. You can do the underground stuff, and people will come, I think. And so I think, long story short, there's a lot of growth possible for the underground in LA still. Like
I really agree with you, and it didn't come across as negative. It's a legitimate observation of the scene. And I think one of the things that I noticed when I moved to LA is just the volume of top flight talent that come through the town every single week. So it kind of went from zero to fully established in a very short amount of time. And it wasn't built off an underground, but an underground is developing in reaction to this more above ground scene that's going on, which is quite exciting and interesting, and is, but you're right, it's a fertile ground for new talent to emerge in LA for sure.
Yeah, and you have to kind of nurture it probably, and be a bit consistent. One of my favorite guys here, they're not from LA really, but you know the focus people. So I think they also have like a really interesting way to do it because they're a Tuesday, and especially now because so many people come through the LA, and they literally have been doing. They have a funny shirt like we've been doing house since you called it techno, which is kind of real. I respect them a lot. They've been doing a 100% house night in Orange County since 10 years. And 10 years ago, I don't even know how they could do it. But it's funny to see that now, Riva Star was staying at my place the other week. And what I meant to say is like, people respect those things, and even bigger DJs, they would go for that underground party that has a soul and is credible. Because at the end of the day, I feel most DJs who come from the underground kind of respects it, and it's.
And of course, that's what attracted all of those people to the industry in the first place. It wasn't as a goal to be in the music industry. It was because something spoke to their soul at these parties, and everybody's on the hunt. Everybody needs to pay their bills and wants legitimacy and all of that stuff. And at the same time, are constantly on the hunt for that fix of that vibe and that soulful party, which started the whole thing in the first place. You want both, don't you?
Oh, yes. I mean, one part of you is saying, well, this is my job, and I should not be just like, oh man, I only want to play this like dark club with sweaty walls and which is like, I think what every underground DJ always, that's the best situation. You can be in 10,000, 15,000 or more people festival, and that's a different experience. But what really makes you go home and smile is if you destroy the little like sweaty dark club. Sorry, I lost myself a bit. What was the?
We were talking about the hunt for the soulful party versus that. I was just saying that is the reason why all of the people like Riva Star, who we now know as this massive brand, but people like him and you name them, the early guys like Sasha and Digweed and all those guys. It was all about. They weren't huge, I've seen Carl Cox play a room of 50 people. I'm loving it.
Yes, that's I think you can tell when people, because I've seen both reactions, and I think the real ones like the Carl Cox, that even A-Track ones, different style, but I seen him playing. I don't know, it was in Lisbon Wednesday,
right?
Not many people. Somebody switched to hip hop. I was screaming every song he played, but anyway, by having fun, you're like, okay, you love what you do, And on the other hand, I've seen superstars kind of like cutting their set short, being like, "Hey, do you want to jump on?" It's like it's just a few hundred people. I'm gonna go. I'm like, why are you doing this?
Why are you doing it?
Why? Also, you're getting paid a lot of money anyway.
Yeah.
Really? So.
Yeah, at that point, what difference? Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. And that, again, my very long story, and the conclusion is, I think to keep your passion alive, you gotta DJ those gigs that make you really happy. Every now and then, it's kind of therapy. It reminds you why you're doing it, how to do it actually in a different way. Because if you start just catering for festival crowds, which, not gonna lie, I had like a bit of an experience in that, and I had to like stop a moment and be like, what am I doing? I'm trying to just cater. I wasn't trying to like select stuff that hopefully people liked. I was just like, oh, people will like this. Oh yeah, they will like this too. More than like, now I'm back with going also back more to house, which like was my first love anyway. I really love playing, DJing again a lot, because now I'm just playing my favorite tunes, that should be it.
And this happened to you mid-set?
No. This happened. No. This was a phase with Crookers. I was like, why am I trying? I was trying to cater more to people. Then we stopped for other reasons, but restarting now and just doing house music, I found myself thinking like, wow, I'm playing my favorite tunes again. And I didn't for a few years. Like, what was I thinking? So it was the realization. And I think playing these underground places, keep that more present in your brain, that you are the happiest and the more effective when you play what you like and not what you think people would like, which is what a lot of people do when they start playing these giant festival stages. They kind of like try to only to think what's gonna make a big bang, you know, and they prepare all the sets. I still to this day don't really prepare, maybe because I'm lazy. And I don't even record box, to be honest. People hate that. Do you record box?
You don't use record box?
No.
So you just have just a whole bunch of files on your flash drive, and then you just find them and use them.
I have folders with the name of the city I'm in, and you know, halfway through the analyzing, they usually stop. And but it's still easier than DJing. I grew up with vinyl.
Me too.
It's still easier than DJing.
They're right. They're just there.
Oh man, I just sold some and I regretted it instantly.
I've played with a couple of people who also find their tracks that way. It really doesn't matter, does it? As long as you understand your organization, that's the main thing, isn't it?
For me, yes, but I see how it's painful for other people if they back to back with you, because sometimes.
Oh, because they can't see where your track's going.
Yes, sometimes it just stops loading. I don't know really why.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, with vinyl, it was kind of the same. You could more or less see when it's ending. If the light was good, maybe you can see where the breakdown is, but
right,
maybe. But I guess it's just laziness. I'm gonna try to do it.
You're gonna try it?
Yeah.
It's so easy to use. It does make life a lot. Well, it's also good because you can get a little bit of that. I mean, when I was just playing vinyl, I knew the record by what it looked like.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw the cover, I knew what that track was. I knew which side it was on and everything. Whereas now you're having to remember names, which is, I think, a little bit harder because it's not as visual.
Oh yeah.
And Record Box, the nice thing about that is that it gives you, it can pop up the visual label, so it can start to give you a little bit of that back, which is nice. So, because my problem is remembering, you know, especially if you're getting a lot of promos in, you know, a lot of new things. They're not as in terms of the sound, you heard it, you felt it, but you don't necessarily know what it's called unless you've studied it and remembered it. You know?
Yeah, I'm having exactly that problem. I'm listening to tracks while DJing sometimes.
Exactly.
Like, what was this? Wait, what was the breakdown?
Yeah.
And I spend. Yeah, no, I should do it mostly because of that, because I spend too much time trying to find the tunes.
Right.
Where is it? Yeah. And then I pop another USB. Maybe it's here. So, yeah.
So one thing I've noticed about you, Bot, based purely on your Twitter feed, is your work ethic. You appear to be really relentless, is the best word I can think of, in terms of your getting in the studio and committing to creating something on a daily basis. And I wanted to talk a little bit about your production process. I think a lot of emerging producers can take a lot from how you approach the working day as a creative. I think it's kind of inspiring how hard you go at it.
Well, thank you. Well, take all the credit. Yeah, I have an incredible work ethic and I'm very disciplined. No. Well, the thing is, I don't really know what to do with myself if I'm not making music. And this is a bit weird for me to say and I could lie about it, but I'm not gonna. Because I come from like playing an instrument. So as a kid, I always liked music. So it was more the idea of playing the instrument, I guess. So I asked to play the piano because as a kid I liked classical music. But so I was never great at practicing so much. But because I also think like the way I was taught piano is like very, conservatory thing. I do solfeggio and have to read like some just classical music. So I wasn't like studying very much. And then I went into electric guitar because I was into metal. And did that. So for me, it was always like, if you're a musician, you do that thing the whole day. What are you doing? Otherwise, that's your job. And coming from being around people playing instruments so much, it was pretty clear. If you want to get good, you have to exercise at least 8 hours a day, 6, 8, 12, 14. The crazy people did, all day long. Yeah, I don't understand a lot, and some people hate me for that, I guess, because like I really understand the inspiration thing. And people think like, oh, I have a writer's block.
Like waiting for the inspiration to strike.
Yeah. What are you waiting for? Just go and sit down. Because so many days I'm not obnoxious, I don't know the word. Anyway, I understand the feeling. Sometimes I am also wake up, I'm like, I really have nothing in me. I have nothing. But I still sit down and try to do something. And sometimes those days are great because after 2-3 hours, you're there and something clicks. And then you're like, I got it. Great. And it's a bit in that maybe I have the discipline driven by the fact that so many times where I wasn't feeling it, something good happened. And even if something good doesn't happen, you get better. Like you should take it as I'm exercising my instrument. To play the guitar really well, you have to exercise every day. And it doesn't mean that you will create a good piece of guitar, but you will be better at playing the guitar and being better at producing. There's nothing, you will always learn something. If you don't feel like making a song, try to make kick drums one day. Watch tutorials about stuff that you always wondered about. I don't know you, but I've been doing this since music in a way since forever, and to this day I still learn jaw-dropping things. But and if I was maybe today I'm not feeling it, let me go and find inspiration at the beach, I wouldn't have learned that. So I don't want to be the guy like, oh, you have to work all the time. But also it's the realization, like, really, do we feel like this is work? Do I feel like I need to take time off from making music, which I was making anyway because it was my hobby when I had other stuff to do? Or maybe, I worked in an office for some time and I would still make music at night, and it's difficult. And so I don't know, it's just also like realizing the blessings and the luck that you have to be able to do music every day. And it would feel just kind of wrong to not do that. To me, it makes no sense that I wouldn't be here all day, every day. I don't understand how that would make any sense.
I personally have a few different strands to being an artist. I've been an actor for so many years, and
that must be even more difficult than
yeah, I mean, for me, like I DJ'd before I was an actor, and then I just decided to concentrate on that. But I'm also a writer as well, and sometimes I think one of the misconceptions about being an artist is exactly what you've just been talking about, which is that you have to be inspired to make art. But the best artists that I know, whatever their discipline might be, they just show up.
Yeah.
Every day, they show up, whether that's to your computer or your canvas or whatever it is that you're preparing for, or it can be anything, but you've got to just keep showing up.
I'm just going to quote Picasso here that says it.
Go.
Picasso said, inspiration has to find you working.
It's a great quote.
Show up, and then the inspiration will come, but show up every day. And I think there's a luck in what you do, I think, and I'm trying to do the same with music in different ways, that you have 3 creative jobs and you can kind of switch. That's also good, I feel. I do that with switching projects. I don't think it's healthy to do 8-10 hours on one thing. I think that's actually not healthy. I try to never work on one thing only during one day. So even having different creative outputs, that's also a good thing. You know, like when you think something's not working but you're sure, you move to something else and then you go back. And usually when you go back, you have a clearer mind and you can judge it. You can be like, you can even trash things. I love trashing things, by the way. When I'm, no, this isn't, you know, let's not lose any more time. It's not going anywhere. But you need to just to get away for a little bit. And I do it with working on many different projects, and I do also rap stuff. But yeah, also if you have 3 different branches of being creative, that's also like really good and healthy. By being, you can work the whole day and still don't obsess on one thing only. Because that's the one thing that because when I talk, sometimes people think like, oh, you stay, 12 hours on one thing, and I can't stress it enough. That's actually, I don't think it's good. Don't do one thing, like be working the whole day, but branch out, go back, do something else. And that at least for the way my brain works, is very, very healthy.
I think that's great advice. And recently you have been giving back as well. I think maybe you've done 2 masterclasses at IO Academy in Hollywood.
I've done one masterclass, I think, and one something else.
And IO Music Academy is run by Adam, who is one half of Yaluka, who I'm making some tracks with right now. But also they,
I might have heard them.
You might have done, yeah. And they're releasing.
I sent to Adam some feedback, and he sends to me sometimes.
Yeah, they're a super talented couple of lads, and they're also they released on Understated as well. So, but how important is that to you right now, giving back to emerging talent?
I think, the second one was paid, so I got even paid. It's not great money, but if there's any money, I'm happy. The best thing, I think, but when I did the first, is when you can see in someone's eyes, like, yeah, I just saved you like 2-3 years of trying stuff that would not work. Because I would love, the good thing about doing that, I think, I try to say things that I would love somebody told me. Because, I grew up in Italy, which is not third world, but it's not like, for electronic music, it wasn't that great, and people tend to keep their secrets. And I feel it took me too long to figure out some things that shouldn't, some person can just tell you. And the first one I did for Adam was just for fun, and I saw that, and so I was like, oh wow. And talking about the workshops, so I was like, okay, I really want to prepare one, and I did one on the low end. And a lot it's like about the kick and bass mixing, which sounds stupid, but it's the most difficult thing still to this day, probably, even if it got way easier. And I think the drive is like, I don't really believe in secrets of production. At the end of the day, they don't mean much. It's about the song you make, but they can hold people back. And if you can help someone who maybe could do a great song not to hold back by just telling them what you learned,
they're never going to make the same thing as you anyway. So
no, exactly. People are afraid of that. No, you're just giving someone the tools to create something on their own, and you're just being childish if you want to keep them from people because you think that there will be the competition. That I don't really like as a way of thinking, and I think should work towards the opposite. Just share whatever you know, because people will do something different, and that's what I always did too. When people told me how to do things, then you apply them to your way of working, and you create something different and interesting. And music is more of a collective effort. I feel there's not a lot of people tend to think that they're these great artists who invented all their stuff. Some people are very unique, and that's amazing. But it's more of a collective progression, I feel. And the more you share, the better for music. There's no, it's just rational, obvious thing. The more knowledge is available to everyone, the better the output will be. And
I love that generosity of spirit is spoken like a true artist. Now
it benefits everyone. That's the thing. It's also like, it's not even being generous. It's the best way to do it. It's rationally the most efficient way to do it.
Do you feel like you're finally making the music you've always wanted to make right now?
No, but that's exciting. I think I'm just starting to get there. Meaning, meaning like if I do a club track, maybe yes, I'm getting there, but I don't think I'm there. And but the exciting thing is I want to try to make songs too, and it doesn't need to be like pop songs. I also want to try to make house songs, but they make sense. And no, I think not even close actually, but that's really nice. Recently, if I have to give props to something that really reminded me of how it's so cool that we can learn so much more even after decades. I was listening to, there's this podcast called Dissect, which somebody's dissecting whole albums and whole songs. And one episode he was dissecting this Frank Ocean song and talking about chords progression, about how like stuff that is dissonant in specific ways can sound very good, and it's the reason why we actually get goosebumps physically. That's an example to explain how there's so much really kind of even essential stuff that you don't know after many, many years. And I've seen that even working with people who are way more experienced than me. And you teach them something, and like, oh my God, you didn't know that? You? And I don't know, that's for me is really refreshing. It makes me think this can go on forever. You can be 85 and still being like, oh, I didn't know that. Great. Let me try to incorporate it. And that's so like driving. I don't know if it's the right word. Motivating.
I think that's so true. I mean, that's how you evolve, isn't it? Is that you always keep the mind of a learner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how you also keep the motivation. Because then you want to go there and be like, wait, let me try to do that. What was the chord progression with the bass doing a dissonant note that I would have never thought, but now, it opens a whole new world. There's all these little things that then they can open so much more. And that makes it exciting also if you don't feel like doing a song maybe this morning. You're still excited to be sitting there and knowing I can learn something new that's actually gonna maybe potentially blow my mind. I mean, that's not so common, but potentially make me a bit excited about trying new things and keep doing it. And it's the biggest blessing, you know, when people complain about the music industry, but I was like, I don't know, man, have you ever worked in a corporate environment?
Yeah.
or with movies?
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
We got it right. We got it pretty good. And,
I think that's absolutely true. So what's coming up for you that you're excited about? What's going on?
So, my release, whatever reason will come before this goes up. Well, I'm excited about having released the main course holiday pack, which is kind of like we release like free tracks from many people. Some of those are bootlegs, but then the rest of. In this holiday pack, I have one original of mine that I always loved, but I didn't know where to send it to. And this year I was like, you know what? I finalized it finally. I'm like, let's just put it up. And then this morning I just finished a bootleg of Brandy and Monica, The Boy's Mine.
Oh, cool.
A house version of that, which will go there. My next release is with, I have a single on, just learned how to say it, Realm, with, I would say Realm.
It's such a great label though, isn't it?
Yeah, they're killing it. I just was looking today, my homie Pirupa, who had like a #1 on there, he just signed with Island Records and someone else off of Realm single. But I have a single there with Vanessa. It's called What I Want. It's been premiered, I think, this Sunday by Von Stroke on his Birdhouse podcast.
Great, congratulations.
Thanks. And then I'm working on more house stuff with this motherfucker here. Riva Star.
There he is.
And that's Sandy Rivera. I was starstruck. He came here. Riva is, if you think have work ethic, you should see that guy. Riva is just, he never stopped. He was here. It's like Sandy Rivera in the morning. Can you 2 sessions, finishing tracks, just never stopped. So he's also an inspiration of mine, to be honest.
Did you know each other from Italy?
No, not from Italy, really. He was already living in London, and but we had common friends in London. So we started going there to play, 2005, 6. He was already living there, but he was in between projects because he came from a breakbeat project called Maddox. So he was changing, just started with Riva Star. We were already like doing well, and he started Riva Star, and I don't know, he's one of the nicest people I know in the scene. To me too, is very helpful. He gives me advice. He tells me that my house is too American and sounds like electro all the time. But I appreciate that. And
it's meant with love, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, I think like British people, so you can go to tell each other, go fuck yourself, with a smile, and it's a loving, go fuck yourself.
Of course.
And so, yeah, no. He's very, very, I don't know how I went on a tangent on him now. I don't remember what the original question was.
Neither do I, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but these, and I got to know Sandy Rivera when he was here, because he was doing a track with him and he came, who was
not a great artist.
Wrote one of my favorite house song classics ever. I think Kings of Tomorrow Finally. And I believe he sung it, because he sings and then somebody
Really?
else. Yeah, because I don't know if it's secret information. Maybe just for you. But I think because when he did the song with Riva, he sings on it. You know, it's a bit maybe off key, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's a song. So I think it's like he sings and then he has someone else who sings like proper, but he doesn't, you know, he doesn't have a diva voice, but he actually writes the lyrics. So that's also something I would like to learn. I'd probably take me another 15 years, but that's cool.
That's how I write almost everything I do, is I sing it first and then I find it.
That's cool.
That's how I work. It's my only.
I heard a lot of people, some duos, I don't think I can say, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people, it's like many times also when they're duos, like one person like, oh, I'm just like something.
I'm that guy. Yeah.
And the other like, oh, okay, yeah, I know. And
yeah,
that's, to be honest, that's sometimes without that input, there's no song. It can be the input that makes the song. And I believe that's a good way. I cannot do it very well because my voice is like, I think it sounds something. I recorded and I listened the other day. I was like, what was it? Singing? I don't remember. But there's nothing as versatile as the voice. It's the best thing in the world.
It's the one instrument I have control over personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now if it's clear enough, you can try to translate it to me. Maybe it doesn't work very well.
So when can we see you playing next?
So next I'm playing in the one that I remember is in LA at Sound Nightclub, December 27th. I'm gonna play before Walker and Royce, and should be pretty.
Wow, that's gonna be a hot night in there.
Yeah, and I like that they go quite late now. So that sound system is pretty good. So yeah, really
pretty. It is pretty good. Yeah.
Family. Yeah, I like Kevin. Old friends. You should come. Are you here or are you back in?
I'll be there. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Bot. And Bot has also done an incredible guest mix for us, which is coming up right now. And we will see you soon, Bot. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me, man. Peace.
Peace.
The guest mix.
Is it 'cause I've been smoking and drinking? Is it 'cause I've been smoking and drinking? Is it 'cause I've been smoking
Understated LA. Understated presents LA Underground with Roukin. You're listening to the Understated Recordings podcast, LA Underground.
Now tuned in to LA Underground.
You can huff and puff, but it's kitty stuff, because your best ain't good enough. Because your best ain't good enough. I'ma show them all.
song of peace, sing a song of happiness. House was our light of day, and it shone on our souls. 3 o'clock in the morning, on and on and on and on and on. House was our relief, house was our sanctuary, house was our prayer, house was our prayer. Can you feel it?
The guest mix.
He's mine. You need to give it up. Had about enough. It's not hard to see, but boy, it's mine. I'm sorry that you seem to be confused. He belongs to me, but boy, it's mine. Think it's time we cut this race. We're sitting talk face to face. There is no way you could mistake. For your man, are you insane? See, I know that you may be just a bit jealous of me, but you're blind if you can't see that his love is older than me.
Understated LA.
And that's all we've got time for on this, the final LA Underground episode of 2019. Understated Presents LA Underground will be back in the new year, and we will kick off with an interview and guest mix from Silver. So, from everybody at Understated, have a wonderful holiday season, and we can't wait to see you on the Understated dance floor in 2020. Happy New Year. See ya.